सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहैः। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। ज्ञानानन्दमयं देवं निर्मलस्फटिकाकृतिम् आधारं सर्वविद्यानां हयग्रीवोपास्महे। ओम श्री हयग्रीवाय नमः। ओम श्री वल्लभास्मेक श्री महागणाधिपतये नमः। So we are in the topic of chaitanyasya svaprakAshatva, and then the negation of rAmAnuja's views in reference to this. In this context, we were talking about the definition of svaprakAshatva itself, which is given by Vellangonda Ramaraya Kavi. The Purva Pakshin was having some objections to that, and he raised 4 different questions and said that these cannot be answered by yes, but Vellangonda showed that all 4 of them can be properly answered by yes. In this context, the 4th question is that how can Anubhava become Anubhava Vishayatva Janaka? So in this context, it was said that Samanya Anubhava or Nirvikalpaka Jnanam, which is called Samanya Anubhava, can become the Janakatva of the Savishesha Vishayatva Janakatvam can be there. Okay. Or even Samanya Anubhava can become the Vishesha Anubhava Vishayatva Janaka. The Samanya Anubhava is always there. The Vishesha Anubhava is not there always. Okay, it comes and goes. So the Samanya Anubhava is said as the Sakshi Chaitanya. So that was introduced by Vellangonda here. Such a, you can see here, Samanya Anubhava Sakshi Chaitanya or Yadva Sakshi Akara Vritti Jnanam. So the Jnana which is in the form of the Sakshya. Okay. Sakshi. Okay. Sakshi Akara Vritti or Sakshi Anubhava Chaitanya. Both, anyway, you can look at it. It is the Sakshi, he said, which is the Nirvikalpaka Jnanam, or it can be said as Samanya Anubhava. Now the Sakshi Sakshatkara or Sakshi Jnanam is taken as moksha by the Purva Pakshi. So he says Sakshi Akara Vrittau Satyam Sakshi Sakshatkarena Sarvasyapi Ayatana Siddhaha Mokshaha. So the moksha will happen by itself if the Sakshi Sakshatkara is always there, like you say. Okay. Because everybody will have Sakshi Akara Vritti or Sakshi Sakshatkara, and because of that moksha will be there without any yatna. Like this, they are raising an objection. So he says we cannot say that. Why? Because he says Pramana Janya Sakshi Akara Vrittya eva Sakshi Avaraka Ajnana Nivritti Dwara Sakshi Sakshatkaraha iti niyama. So what we say is there is the Sakshi Swarupa is there, which is Brahman, and that is covered. There is Ajnana is there, and the Pramana has to create the Akhandakara Vritti, which reveals the Sakshi Swarupa. Then only you can say that that is real Sakshi Sakshatkara. Otherwise, taking oneself as a subject or a witness also is a problem. Understand that? Because that's why we say Sakshi also is within the realm of Avidya only. Because there cannot be any Sakshi without Avidya. Because Sakshi, the status of being a Sakshi depends on the Sakshya being there. That means it is all within Dvaita. Okay, the witnessed defines the witness. So there is a witnessed Dvaita. They arise together, in fact, the subject-object duality. So that is all within the realm of avidya only. What we are trying to point out is the Swarupa or the nature of Sakshi. In fact, the nature of the witnessed also is the same for us. Okay, both of them depend on an independent reality which is Brahman. So knowing that means there has to be a pramana janya vritti. Okay. So pramana janya vritti which reveals to you the reality of the Sakshi also. Then only we can say that Sakshi Sakshatkara has taken place really. Understanding the nature of the Sakshi has happened and that will lead to moksha. So this is the situation. So then once we say this what the Purva Pakshi comes back and says, what is this Sakshi Sakshatkara? Oh, so Sakshi Sakshatkara. Because Sakshi itself is, if it is Anubhava, if Sakshatkara means you are again having Anubhava of Anubhava, like that it will become. So Anubhavasya Nasti Anubhava iti hi tvaya tam. But you have said Anubhava cannot be Anubhavya. So if a objection is raised like this, means then with reference to that it is said, Uchyate, what do we say? Sakshi Bhinna Dvaita Anubhava Abhavaha eva Sakshi Sakshatkara. So what do we mean by Sakshi Sakshatkara is whatever is other than the Sakshi. Okay. Okay. So Sakshi Bhinna Dvaita. Whatever is different from the Sakshi, which is the Dvaita Prapancha, that Anubhava Abhava. Because as long as you are experiencing something other than you, and you are also taking that as real, correct? There is a problem there. Then there is no real Sakshi Sakshatkara. But if this Sakshi Bhinna Dvaita Anubhava Abhava, that is what is called Sakshi Sakshatkara. In fact, when the Sakshi Bhinna Dvaita Anubhava Abhava goes, Sakshi also goes, we have to say. Both will go away, but whatever remains after that is Brahman, correct? That is called Sakshi Sakshatkara because you know the reality of the Sakshi. So that is the Sakshi Sakshatkara. So once we say this, then there is objection for this also. What is that? So the Purva Pakshi now comes and says, Nacha Anubhava Abhavasya Katam Anubhavatvam iti Vachyam. So how can you say that Anubhava of Abhava is an Anubhava? How can you have Anubhava of any Abhava? Correct? Because we said Sakshi Vinna Dvaita Anubhava Abhava, like that we are saying. So Anubhava Abhava itself is given as Sakshi Sakshatkara. I mean Sakshatkara is also Anubhava. Therefore, how can you say Anubhava Abhava leads to some Anubhava? The absence of experience, the experiencing the absence of experience, like that saying that is contradictory. Means, what do we really say is Anubhavasya Nityatvena Abhava Pratiyogitva Abhava. What we say is Anubhava means the Anubhava Swarupa, we have to say. Correct? The experience or consciousness is Nitya. Therefore, it cannot have a counter positive. Like what is Anitya? Anything, any Anitya vastu only can have a Pratiyogi, correct? Abhava Pratiyogi. But whatever is beyond time, space-time, whatever is not even subjected to space-time, how can it have any counter positive or Pratiyogi? There is no Pratiyogi for Anubhava or Jnanam. Okay. Therefore, we are not talking about the Abhava in this case. So what we are talking about is the Anubhava Abhava of the Sakshi Bhinna. So that he explains now. What do we mean by that? He says, Kintu Vishesha Anubhava Abhavasya Samanya Anubhava Bhavatvam Uchyate. So what we say is Vishesha Anubhava Abhava is what we are talking about. Vishesha here means something other than the Sakshi itself, the Nama Rupa, correct? Is the Vishesha. Now that Anubhava Abhava, if there is no Anubhava of that means what remains is the Sakshi Swarupa alone will remain. That is what is called Samanya Anubhava here. Therefore, that's what we are actually intending to reveal here. So Vishesha Anubhava Kevala Velayam Sannapi Samanya Anubhava Asat Kalpatam Yati. See, the problem is people do not recognize the Samanya, the invariable in each and every cognition is missed. Okay, that is the Sadbuddhi we say, correct? Sadbuddhi is Anuvritta in each and every cognition. In fact, we have to say Satchit Buddhi. Satchit Buddhi is Anuvritta in each and every cognition because everything, every cognition is that consciousness is, correct? You say if you cognize an apple, apple consciousness is. If you cognize an orange, orange cognition is. If you cognize the plate, plate cognition is. Or plate consciousness is. Table cognition means table consciousness is. In all these things, consciousness is the invariable. That is the Samanya. But even though that Samanya is always there, it is not recognized. That is the Avidya, in fact. So when the Vishesha Anubhava is taking place, Vishesha Anubhava Velayama, Sannapi Samanya Anubhava, Asat Kalpatamya, it becomes as though it is not there. So it's not recognized. Therefore, what Vishesha Anubhava Abhava Dashayam tu Samanya Anubhava Satta Prakarsham Labhate. So when the Vishesha Anubhava is not there during that time, the Samanya alone is there and it can be recognized better. That's why we say that you have to have a quiet mind and all that. Okay, or samadhi as a sadhana is prescribed. Even deep sleep also can be analyzed and we can arrive at it. Okay, so the samanya anubhava is where only the satta of the samanya anubhava is there. Okay, that you understand it well without any problem. With the vishesha anubhava, abhava is there. That's what we are saying. So samanya anubhava satta prakarsham labhate. You understand it clearly, you understand it well. So therefore what do we say? Tasmad uchyate vishesha anubhava abhavaha eva samanya anubhava lakshanaha sakshi sakshatkaraha iti. So therefore we say that the vishesha anubhava abhava, the absence of cognizing any object which is other than the sakshi, leads to recognition of the samanya anubhava, which is yourself, the consciousness by itself, and that sakshi itself is characterized as the samanya anubhava, and that sakshi sakshatkara takes place, we say. Sakshi Sakshatkara, which is characterized by recognizing the Samanya Anubhava. So Samanya Anubhava Lakshanaha, Sakshi Sakshatkaraha, that is taking place. Therefore, it is said like this: Vishesha Anubhava Abhava. Okay, once we say this, there is another problem. Nanu Vishesha Anubhava Abhave Ajnana Anubhavaha Asti na Sakshi Anubhavaha iti chet Satyam. Okay. So once we say that when the Vishesha Anubhava Abhava is there, it is not Sakshi Anubhava, he says. It is Ajnana Anubhava. Ajnana Anubhava only is there. If you say this, we accept that. In fact, he says Satyam. Like I told you already, Sakshi requires the ajnana. The ajnana dasha only the word Sakshi has any relevance. So, Sakshi by itself is defined by ajnana only. Ajnana upahita chaitanya is called Sakshi, but ajnana lakshita chaitanya or Sakshi, when we use the word, the Vachyartha is the Ajnana Upahita Chaitanya. But the Lakshyartha is Brahman. That's what we have to understand. In all these words, it is the same thing. Satyam Jnanam. When you say Jnanam, Vritti Jnanam, if you take as Vachya, the Lakshya is Swarupa Jnana. Correct? Satyam also same thing. Vachyartha is existence in space-time. Lakshyartha is existence beyond space-time, which transcends space-time. Like this, for all these things, we have to understand how the words reveal the Swarupa. So here, if you say that this Vishesha Anubhava Abhava is nothing but Ajnana Anubhava only, and not really Sakshi Anubhava, we accept it. If you go by the Vachyartha, if you say Satyam, he accepts. So what does he say now? Sakshya Avarakasya Eva Ajnanasya Saha Anubhava iti Sakshi Anubhavatvena Vyavahritaha. So what we say is, yes, the Sakshi Swarupa is covered by Vijnana, and that is what is experienced, and that is what we really call Sakshi Anubhava also. Okay? That's why you are able to get up and have the smriti that you can recollect that I did not know anything. So that recollection that I did not know anything is really the Ajnana Anubhava. But that points to the Sakshi by itself. Correct? The Sakshi was there as it is. It never went away anywhere. That's why Brihadaranyaka says, Pashyanapi na pashyati. Like that, the Swayamjyoti Brahmanam is very beautiful. So, seeing only, it did not see anything. Means that ability, that capacity to see consciousness by itself, its Swarupa is the same always. Whether you are seeing something, whether you are not seeing something, that is what the Lakshanartha we have to understand. So the Sakshi Anubhava itself is the Ajnana Anubhava. There is no problem with that. So he says that further, Ajnana Avachinna Sakshi Anubhavaha Samanya Anubhava iti bhavaha. So the Ajnana, so Sakshi Anubhava is nothing but the Brahman conditioned by Ajnana. Correct? So Avachinna here can be taken also as Upahita. Unless there is a Upadhi, even Sakshi word we cannot use. But through the Upadhi only, the Upalakshita Brahman has to be understood. Okay? That is the whole idea of this Lakshana. In fact, many people stumble here. There is always a problem. That is like a quantum jump, I think. One has to make the quantum jump from the Upadhi to the Upahita or Upalakshita. Anyway, so this we accept. Okay, then once we say this, what Nanu Swapadigasya Sakshinaha Anubhavyattvena Bhavatu Tad Anubhavaha Katham Punaha Kevalaha Sakshi Anubhavaha Nahi Kevala Sakshi Anubhavaha Eva. So now the Purvapakshi says, okay, if Sakshi is Sopadikaha, okay, Ajnana Upadhi is there, because of which it becomes Anubhavya, it becomes something experienced, and there can also be an experience of that, which is fine. What about the Nirupadika Brahman, which is Kevala Sakshi or Kevala Anubhavaha? That Kevala Sakshi cannot have any Anubhava or be called as even Anubhava, he says. Nahi Kevala Sakshi Anubhavaha. Okay. Because you have only said that Anubhava cannot be Anubhavya. Correct? If you say this word, we say no, it's not like that. So what we are saying is Yavad avidyam katham sakshinaha kaivalya sambhavaha. So the sakshi itself, like I said, is only used as a lakshana, the word. Why? Because some people get confused also here. Even the Upanishad uses the word sakshi. There is a Svetasvatara Upanishad, correct? Eko devas sarva bhuteshu gudaha sarvavyapi sarvabhutantaratma karmadhyakshaha sarvabhuta adhivasaha sakshi cheta kevalo nirgunascha. This sakshi cheta kevalo nirgunascha is a highly quoted thing. Okay. So sakshi as a word, like Satyam Jnanam Anantam, sakshi itself is used as a lakshana for Brahman. But this sakshi is not still kevala anubhava. Understand? So that's why he says yavad avidyam katham sakshinaha kaivalya sambhavaha. So till the avidya is the one which is determining the sakshi itself, or which is characterizing sakshi or conditioning sakshi. There is no kevala anubhava sambhava. In fact, once we say this, then the Purvapakshi comes back and says, what? Nacha evam samadho api ajnana sattve katham sakshi spuranam iti vachya. So if we say like this, in this manner, then he is saying even samadhi also ajnana will be there. Then how can you say in samadhi you have sakshi spuranam? Means we say, no, you can't say that. Why? Na vachyam. Why? Samadho yadi sakshinaha kaivalyam tarhi tada nasti eva sakshi anubhavaha sakshinam anubhavituhu pramatehe pramatuhu eva abhava. Okay. Now, if in samadhi there is a kaivalya of sakshi, means what sakshi is there as a nirupadika brahman. Then we can say that there is no sakshi anubhava there. Nasti eva sakshi anubhavaha tarhi tada. In that case, if sakshi has kaivalya, then we can say there is no sakshi anubhava there. Why? Because in kevala brahman there is no pramatritvam also. Here sakshinam anubhavituhu pramatuhu eva abhava. The pramata will not be there. There is no knower or sakshi only. But it is not like that. Kintu sakshi ekaha eva asti, but sakshi alone is there. Ata eva tada sakshinam aham pashyami iti pratiti abhavaha. So there is no pramata, but sakshi is there by itself. That's why during that time you cannot have any pratiti. Correct? While sleeping, while in samadhi, you are not having any pratiti that I am enjoying or I am experiencing the sakshi or I am not experiencing anything. Even that pratiti is not there. So that means you are having anubhava abhava of everything. So during that time, even ajnana also there is no, you cannot have pratiti, correct? I do not know anything, I know something, nothing like that. No pratiti is there. That's why he says, tasmat ajnanasya tattanyasya va yasya kasyapi vishesasya anubhava abhavaha eva sakshi sakshatkaraha iti uchyate. So the sakshi sakshatkara, when we say, there is no duality at all. Okay. The ajnana and its karya, both of them are not experienced at that time. Of course, ajnana is anumita, or we have to say it is arthapatti. We are saying because once you get up again, the ajnana karya is there. That means the ajnana karya was not experienced definitely in deep sleep or in samadhi. But after coming out of that Vyavastha, if you are still an Ajnani, then we have to say that Mula Jnanam was there. Ajnana, the Ajnana as the Karna Sharira or Avyakta is there. We have to accept. That is a Arthabhakti Pramanena we arrive at it. So, at that time, you are not having any Anubhava. But it was there. That is the idea. I am there, correct? I slept, I had Samadhi, like that. It is all I is invariable. I did not go away anywhere. Even though you did not have the subject-object duality, the Pratyegatma is still there. Understanding that is the Sakshi Sakshatkara, we say. Okay. So therefore what? Nacha abhavasya katam sakshatkaratvam iti vachyam. So here, once we say this what? Sakshi Sakshatkara itself is appreciating the Dvaita Abhava, and beyond the Dvaita Abhava, whatever Vastu is there. That is what one has to recognize, correct, as oneself. So if we say that, then how can you say that Abhava is a Sakshatkara? Again, the same question is coming. When this was raised before also, correct? So Abhavasya katam Sakshatkaratvam iti na vachyam. You cannot ask this question why Abhavasya adhikarana rupatva Vishesha Anubhava Abhava Adhikaranam Sakshi Rupaha Anubhavaha Eva iti. So, what we say is the Vishesha Abhava resolves into the Adhikarana. So, when we talk about the Abhava of what? We are talking about the Abhava of the Vishesha Jnana. For example, if you see Sarpa in Rajju, the Sarpa Abhava Anubhava, how does it happen? The Sarpa Abhava Anubhava means resolution into the Rajju, correct? Is the Adhikarana Anubhava. So, here also, Adhikarana Rupatvat, so the Vishesha Abhava is in the form of the appreciating the Adhikarana. So, that Adhikarana is Sakshi Rupa or Sakshi Swarupa Anubhava self. That's how one has to understand, because that is still the consciousness which is always there, correct? Which is the invariable. That alone can be Satyam also. That's why the unchanging Nirvikari consciousness. The word Sakshi can be used there. Why? Because there is an interesting Paniniya Sutra also. So, Panini in the 5th chapter, second pada, 91st Sutra is there. Sakshat Drashtari Sanyayam. Like this Ini Pratyaya comes there. Okay, from that only Sakshat is the Avyaya, correct? It's indeclinable. But through that you add a Pratyaya, then that Talopa happens and it becomes Sakshi and then Sakshi and all that. Then you have Sakshi, Sakshino, Sakshinaha, etc. Now that Sakshi also, interestingly, Panini puts one Samjnayam. So the Samjnayam, why he is saying that, Kashika Vritti is saying, Sajna Grahanat Upadrashta eva uchyate na data grahita vaha. See, that Sajna Grahanam is there because a Sakshi means, even in Vyavahara, grammatically is giving a beautiful meaning there. He is saying, let us say somebody is taking a loan, or somebody is, nowadays you go to a registrar office and you have a sale deed, correct? Sale deed transaction is taking place. One person is selling, he is the data. Another person is buying it, correct? He is the grahita. But they are also seeing whatever is happening there, but they are not called witness, correct? Even in the registrar office, the witness has to be some other person who is not getting involved in the transaction. He is only called a witness. Means there is no kriya which the witness is doing. Kriya has to be only witnessing without doing anything. Right? That is Sakshi, he says. Sakshi means it has to witness and only witness. It should not do anything else. That is what is the chaitanya. And that avikriyatvam also is lakshita there. When we say Sakshi, the Sakshi Swarupa is really nirvikar. That comes out even in grammar. This is an interesting point here. Anyway, so what we are saying is this Sakshi, that's why is a very useful word to reveal one's own Swarupa. So the Sakshi Sakshatkara is really this Sakshi Rupa Anubhava, it is there. You cannot deny that, because by negating all Dvaita itself, whatever is now left is the Adhikarana only, which is yourself, correct? That is what we call it as Sakshi Rupa Anubhava. So there is no problem. In fact, he explains that further. He says, Samanyehi Visheshasya Adhyasaha Adhyasa Abhavascha Adhishtana Anatireki Eva. So, Samanya, the Samanya Idam, iti Samanya Jnanam has to be there. In that only any Adhyasa is possible. If the Idam itself is not visible, Adhyasa is not possible. So, there has to be a Samanya Anubhava. That Samanya Anubhava, in that means the eye sense has to be there first. On that, then you superimpose everything. So, that Samanya Idam has to be there, and then in that you do superimposition of snake, etc. And then once that snake adhyasa abhava means, what do we really understand? It is nothing but cannot be separate from the adhishtana, which is the rope here, which is available as idam. So that's what here also we mean. The Vishesha Abhava Rupa is the Sakshi really, and appreciating that is the Sakshi Sakshatkara. So he says what? Tasmad Vishesha Anubhava Abhava Rupaha Sakshinaha api Sakshatkaraha upapaddhyate. So therefore what? Understanding the Sakshi Swarupa as Vishesha Anubhava Abhava, which resolves into the Adhishtana of both Sakshi and Sakshya. In fact, that is what Kenopanishad again beautifully says it as Pratibodha Viditam Matam. It is one of the greatest statements of Upanishad. Pratibodha Viditam Matam Amritatvam hi Vindate. Bodham Bodham Prati. So in every cognition, if you understand that each and every cognition is only resolving into this limitless conscious being, and that is not separate from you. That is the jnana we are talking about. In fact, that's why just jada samadhi or everyday sleep also is not enough. See, experience, nobody lacks experience. Experience need not lead to jnanam automatically or sakshatkara automatically. The sakshatkara has to come only as a result of vichara. That is why vichara, shabda pramana, all these things are very important. The shabda pramana has to be used, atma vichara has to be done using the shabda pramana handled by the guru. All these things are prerequisite. Then only the sakshi sakshatkara takes place really, because then you understand the swarupa of sakshi. So otherwise the adhyasa abhava anubhava is there. But it need not always lead to Sakshi Sakshatkara. For that, Pramana Vyapara is important. That he said already also. That's why Ayatnataha also it cannot happen. So that's why this Arthapati of Ajnana in sleep and all is important. This Ajnana is just Jnana Abhava. Those who say, I don't know how they even say that. Because Bhashyakara does not even accept any Abhava. Any Visheshana you add to Abhava, like Jnana, it is all Bhava only, he says. So, there is no problem in accepting Ajnana because it doesn't really affect the Advitiyatvam of Brahman because it is all not Paramarthi. So again, there is a problem in understanding what is Satyam, what is Vidya, and in the process, somehow they think that Vidya Ajnana is having, it will lead to Advaitahan. That is their main problem, I think, those who talk about it. But for that, they are proposing an Abhava, and they even say that Abhava produces Adhyasa, etc., which again goes against whatever Bhashyakara says in so many places. Doesn't make any sense. Abhava cannot produce anything. Understand that. See, even they give some Laukika examples, correct? But even the Laukika example are all wrong. They don't really give a proper example. Because if you say that the absence of cleaning, they give examples like this, unfortunately, without thinking through it. Absence of cleaning leads to whatever dust, etc. Right? So they say that yes, see now absence leads to something. How can absence lead to something? The dust is already there. Dust only leads to dusting of things, correct? Not the absence of cleaning. Cleaning will remove the dust. That is fine. But if the absence of cleaning is there and dust also is not there, nothing can happen, correct? So the presence of dust only leads to dusting of something, not the absence of cleaning. Understand that? Absence of cleaning is a way of saying the presence of dust. In fact, that's what we are also saying here. The absence of Vishesha Anubhava Abhava leads to the presence of Samanya Anubhava, which is Prityagatma itself, correct? The Samanya Anubhava Swarupa is Prityagatma. So only the presence of something can cause something. These are all very basic things which some people abandon and they are confusing. They are very confusing prakriya. So anyway, so here this Sakshi Sakshatkara is proper. There is no problem in talking about the Sakshi Sakshatkara-upapattih. Or other way of understanding it is what Yadva Sakshinaha Parisheshyam Eva Sakshi Anubhavaha means. See, once you do neti of everything, correct? Then the negator alone can never be negated, correct? That's what we say. So whatever is left over after all the Vishesha Anubhava is negated is Sakshi. Not Sakshi Swarupa we have, because when there is no Sakshya, the status of being Sakshi also is equally Mithya. But the Sakshi Swarupa is still there. That is what we call as Sakshi Anubhavaha. That is the one which is left over. And that is what that's a Sarva-dvaita Apratito Bhavati iti bodhyam. And that happens when there is no Dvaita Pratiti or the Dvaita Pratiti is Badhya. Okay? When the Dvaita Pratiti is negated, then whatever Anubhava you have, it is the Khandakara Vidya Sakshi Anubhavaha that has to be understood. Or otherwise what Athava Sakshi Sakshatkarayoho Abhedepi Sakshinaha Sakshatkaraha iti प्रतीतिः उपपद्यते राहो शिरः आत्मनश्चैतन्यं सूर्यस्य प्रकाशः इतिवत् इति बोध्यम्. Otherwise, even the usage of Sakshi Sakshatkara, okay, is even if you put a Sashti there, like Sakshinaha Sakshatkaraha, that Shashti is like Raho Shiraha. Rahu is just Shira alone. Even though there is a usage in language like Raho Shiraha, the Shashti does not have any sambandha pointing to two different things there. Similarly, Atmanas Chaitanyam, Suryasa Prakashaha, all these things are, you have to understand it like that. Even the Sakshi Sakshatkara, which if you even give a Vigraha of Sakshinaha Sakshatkara, that Shakti does not point to two things or anything like that. Sakshi itself is Anubhava. That's what one has to understand. Therefore, what? Tasmat Pratyakabhinnam Brahmaiva Swayam Prakashaha Nityascha Anubhavaha. So therefore, this Pratyek Abhinnam Brahma is Swayam Prakasha, and that is also eternal, that is Nitya, that is not subjected to any space, time, etc. So with this topic is over. In fact, the next topic he takes up interestingly is what Anubhutehe Nityatva-upapattih. That Anubhava or Anubhuti is Nitya, which is nothing but Chaitanya Swarupam. In fact, Ramanuja says that Anubhava is not Nitya because there is Anubhava Pragabhava. This point is taken up and then discussed beautifully, that we will see in the next class. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Guru Namaः. Harihi Om.
ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳು. ತುಂಬಾ